Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about apostrophes. Make sure to stick around to the end where we go through some practice problems. Now, I think this is really important to say straight off. Many people tend to get this rule wrong with apostrophes and pronouns. Let's take a quick look at what I mean. The student's is notebooks. Here it's pretty obvious the notebook belongs to the student. Same thing with the second example, the NASA's budget. It belongs to NASA. So when people tend to use pronouns, they think it belongs to the pronoun. For example, it's with apostrophe should mean that it belongs to it. But actually, that's wrong. The dog wagged its tail. The case without the apostrophe is the one that's actually correct. So many people tend to get this wrong since regular nouns like student, NASA use the apostrophe to show possession, but pronouns in this case, they play by slightly different rules. And this is probably the biggest trap on the SAT. So let's take a look at some quick, easy examples of where the apostrophe goes. If you have a singular noun, such as dog, then you're going to add the apostrophe before the S. Now, if you have a plural one, like dogs, then the apostrophe is going to come after the S. And if you're not trying to show any ownership at all, you don't need to add the apostrophe, and it's just going to remain singular or plural. So here's an example. The student's is notebook. This is for one student. The student's is notebooks. This is for many students. The company's policy. The company's is policies. This is the first one is for one company. The second one is for many companies. So if you have a singular owner, apostrophe S. Plural owner, S and then apostrophe. And if you're just not trying to show ownership at all, you don't need the apostrophe. So now to the pronoun exception. Now the case when you add the apostrophe, you're actually going to be showing contraction. For example, it's, this is it is, whose, who is, there, they are, and your, you are. And if you don't have the apostrophe, you're going to be showing possession. It belongs to it, whose belongs to whom, there belongs to them, your belongs to you. Now, the quickest way to tell whether you're showing contraction or possession is to just swap in the full version in and check if the sentence still makes sense. Here's a quick example. The university is known for research programs. I already tried subbing in the case with the full case if I had the apostrophe, and it doesn't make any sense. So you're going to use its to show possession here. Then the second example, who is the leading candidate for this position? This makes sense. So if the full words fit, you're showing contraction. If they don't, you're showing possession every single time. And College Board likes to trap you here by using long, complex sentences and paragraphs. So just look at the key part, the sentence before, the sentence after, and run it through this test. Here's a quick full summary. For regular nouns, you're just going to add the apostrophe s. Everything's normal. You're going to be doing it so many times you're going to get used to it super fast. Then when you have possessive pronouns, then you need to be careful. It's, who's, they're showing possession, but they don't need apostrophe. And then if you're going for contraction, you're going to need to do the swap test to make sure you're truly getting the right option. And the SAT strategy is to quickly spot the pair in the choices and run the swap test as fast as possible. Let's take a quick look at this problem. Marine biologist Sylvia Earle has spent over 7 decades studying ocean ecosystems. Through her research, Earle has documented how coral reefs sustain blank biodiversity by providing shelter and nutrients to thousands of species. I already see that coral reefs here is plural, so I know D is going to be wrong. There is used to there, like in option C, is used to show location, so I know that's also going to be wrong. So we're left in with A and B, and we need to run the swap test. Through her research, Earle has documented how coral reefs sustain their biodiversity. That already sounds wrong, so we know it's going to be showing possession here, and B is going to be the correct answer. Once again, the hint says run the swap test, and you're always going to be checking between singular versus plural. Here's a quick summary of the solutions. Now let's go on to problem number 2. In 1928, Scottish bacteriologist Alexander Fleming returned from vacation to find that a mold had contaminated one of his petri dishes. Rather than discarding the sample, Fleming noticed that the mold appeared to have blank, own antibacterial properties, a discovery that would eventually lead to the development of penicillin. So let's already see two options here, B and C, so I'm going to run it through the swap test. Rather than discarding the sample, Fleming noticed that the mold appeared to have its own antibacterial properties, a discovery that eventually led to the development of penicillin. That didn't sound right, so we know B is going to be the correct answer. So A, you can never have this case where you have the word and then the apostrophe, so that's already outright wrong. Here, everything is singular, so we know D is also going to be wrong. And by running the swap test, we already found out that C is wrong, so B is going to be the correct answer. Here's a quick summary of the solution. The restoration of the 1920s theater, blank original marquee, had been damaged during a hurricane in 2005, required architects to consult historical photographs to ensure that the rebuilt facade may match the structure's original Art Deco design. So we have two versions with the apostrophe here that seem to be showing contraction. So let's plug in the swap test. The restoration of the 1920s theater, who is original, that already does not work. The restoration of the 1920s theater, that is original marquee, had been damaged. That also doesn't make sense. So we know B and D are wrong, and we're going to be going in between A and C. C is wrong since it just messes up what's the subject. It's completely throwing it all over the place. I'll try reading it through. The restoration of the 1920s theater, which its original marquee had been damaged during Hurricane 2005, it's going all over the place, so we know A is going to be the correct answer. And we're also trying to show the possession here of it being the theater. So whose, by the way, can also refer to objects. It's not limited to people. Same with the their and its. I feel like when people tend to think of it, they want to refer to an object, but there's many cases when you tend to refer to more tangible human things as well. So here's a quick rule for apostrophes. If it's a noun, check if it's possession. If it's a pronoun, it may not be for possession. You're not going to add the if you're trying to do possession, you're not going to add the apostrophe. Otherwise, it's going to be contraction. Use the swap test. And for the stat hack is to quickly swap the pair, and you'll be able to finish up this problem super quick. So the next video is apostrophes. Thank you very much for watching today, and make sure to subscribe and keep grinding.